I want to try to help anybody. Our customer base are small and medium-sized businesses. So what I want to do is help you if you can, if I can, take advantage of these loan programs that the government is just throwing at small and medium-sized businesses. But I've got about 5 minutes or so of background and context. So I'd like to start with a quote from a famous scientist. Her name was Marie Curie. She lived about 100 years ago. And she once said that nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. And I thought that was an appropriate, given how fear is driving this whole COVID-19 thing. I thought it was an appropriate quote. Let me read it again. Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. And like I said, I think that fits our current situation. In terms of because this is a StoneHardscapes focused event, there's a lot of people who don't know about Team Horner and the Team Horner group because our footprint is generally in the swimming pool industry. And so I'll give you a real short version of who we are. First of all, we have a little over somewhere between 500 and 600 employees. We're now, as of 5 years ago, an employee-owned company because I had reached the stage in the life cycle where I needed to do something to protect the future of the company. And so I chose to sell it to the employees. And we're now 5 years downstream, and that's been the spiritually rewarding thing for me and for all 500 plus employees. Who we are from a business standpoint is we are manufacturers, we are wholesale distributors, we are importers, we are exporters, and so that pretty much covers the gamut. And everything is focused on the swimming pool industry in general. We have a branch in India, in Pune, India, of our distribution business for our heat pumps and salt generators. We just bought a big company in France in January that manufactures one-piece fiberglass swimming pools, about 2,000 a year. They have two large factories there, one near Dijon and one near Strasbourg. And so we're very excited about our future in Western Europe with that. And we have a branch in Long Island in our wholesale business. And then we also have 18 branch locations in Florida. And then, of course, we have an export business, Horn Express Worldwide, that has about 500 active customers in a little over 100 countries all over the world. So, and all of the business is focused on swimming pool in general. StoneHardscapes is actually our most recent addition. About 10 years ago, we bought a tile company. And then in February of 2013, we did a startup of a new division called StoneHardscapes with two guys that were from that industry, David and James Bond, but part of it didn't work out. So now StoneHardscapes is 100% part of Team Horner Group. And it really fits in strategically because many of the pool contractors that we do business with also do pool decks, of course. And then what we've really done is expand slightly into the general contractor and home builder and other kinds of contractors who sell the natural stone pavers that we import. So that's how Pam came to us, and we're very pleased with StoneHardscapes. We are also synergistically now selling it through all of our wholesale distribution locations. So that's kind of a little bit of a thumbnail of who we are. If you have any other questions, of course, you can always just call me or email me. One of the things that I've always believed is that we're all in this together. In other words, we have a shared fate. And Fortunately, here in Florida, and we just found out earlier today that in New York State, we're categorized during this, whatever you want to call this pandemic thing, that's the common word they're using now, we're categorized as an essential business. So that makes us lucky that we're still operating, because there's a whole lot of different kinds of companies that are pretty much shut down. And then all of a sudden, the government decides to give away a lot of money. And since 90% of our customers are small and medium-sized companies, getting proactive with your bank or with some lending institution is a key thing. So about 2 weeks ago, when I first heard about this program where they were forgiving parts of the loan on this payroll protection program, I said, well, this is something that could make a dramatic difference to many of our customers. And so that's why I got involved and investigated it and started. This is my fourth or fifth seminar, I think, on this topic. So philosophically, the way I look at it is every problem is an opportunity. Okay. We take this COVID-19 event seriously, although politically I'm totally out of sync with what's happening as far as the strategy involved. It's a one-size-fits-all strategy that, in my mind, is absolutely ridiculous. And now 20 million people are out of work because of it. It makes no sense at all to me. I'm just a little mole in a molehole in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I've written several epistles on it from a political standpoint. If you're interested in that, you can ask me about that later. So I'm saying that this is both a historical and a hysterical situation. Nothing like this has ever happened in my lifetime in 77 years. So it's the biggest economic event since the Great Depression in terms of the impact that it's having on the economy. But our goal is the opportunity that it's creating for each one of you. I'd like to also just briefly mention a few basic business principles, especially here in Florida, where the slowdown hasn't hit the pool industry yet. The number one principle in business is always the same, and that is cash is king. If you're a business owner or an operator, you need to stay unleveraged as much as humanly possible and keep as much cash as you can. The way that I've always believed Team Horner has been successful is through a strong balance sheet where the assets are much larger than the liabilities, and I've always tried to minimize the amount of leverage that the company has in terms of its debt structure. I think you should also always know what your break-even point is, because if it starts dropping significantly, this happened in 2008, 2009, after having historical growth in 2005, 6, 7. All of a sudden, it started going down, and so you need to know what your break-even point is. And what we did 10 years ago, and we've also looked at it again this time, is we've reviewed all of our fixed expenses on a line-by-line basis. For example, out of the 18 branch locations we have, about half of the warehouses are rented, the other half we own. And so with the rented warehouses, we've asked the landlords for rent reductions. 10 years ago when we did that, we actually got some. Some people gave us a rent reduction for a year, which is what we had asked for, because it wasn't fair to say, well, give us a rent reduction for the rest of the lease, but it was fair to ask for a year because we didn't know at the time exactly how long that was going to last. And then the last thing I'll do from just a general business principle standpoint is mention communication with employees. It's really critical because the number one thing that everybody gets concerned about when there's some kind of an economic event like this is their jobs and whether they're going to lose their jobs or not. Again, there's 20 million people unemployed that were employed a month ago. So you need to communicate exactly what's happening inside of your company and try to not tell them the truth, but at the same time, if there's not going to be a layoff, which we haven't really seen those in the pool business yet, because at least here in Florida, that they want to know that. They want to know that you're solid. So those are in brief a few of my thoughts as far as things to remember in terms of being a business owner and a business operator. And then you need to take actions in terms of looking at how your overhead is structured, because one thing that happens is a little bit of success can create a whole lot of overhead. That happens to all of us. I know that we're in that same position in in our company. So without any further ado, what we'll do is we'll just move into the CARES Act, which is this reason that we created this thing. And if somebody has a question, just interrupt me. The key element in this SBA loan program called the CARES Act is the Paycheck Protection Program, where you can get a federally guaranteed 100% loan, and part of it will be forgiven, provided that you keep the payroll where it was compared to last year. And the payroll includes not just the amount of money you've paid, but also health care benefits, and also things like interest on mortgages, rent, utilities, and interest on debt incurred prior to the loan.
Test.
And the maximum amount of a PPP loan available to a borrower is $10 million, or 2.5 times its average total monthly payroll cost based on last year. So there are some simple forms that I'll go through with you quickly. By the way, you should also know what's in it for the lender. And the lender gets paid on loans under $350,000. They get 5% fee. If it's over 350, it drops down from there. But they are not allowed by law to collect any fees from you as the borrower. So that's an important little notation. I've got the actual form from the SBA that you fill out, and I must tell you, it's very simple and straightforward. There's not a lot of crazy stuff involved. It just asks for your monthly payroll times the 2.5 and how many employees you have. And it also, one of the interesting little certifications is that you will purchase only American-made equipment and products. And of course, in the pool industry, we don't really know where a lot of stuff is made. I do know that a lot of the pool equipment that we sell is not made in America. A lot of it is made in China, because Pentair, Zodiac, and Hayward all have factories that they buy from there. In some cases, they actually own the factories. And I don't think that's a problem for something like natural stone. As far as you know, it was made somewhere, but it was imported by us. And I don't think that would be a problem. There's some documentation things here, but and all the other big limitation is that the payroll has to be 75% of the loan that you ask for. The 25% can be the other things that I mentioned before, the rent and mortgage interest and that kind of stuff. This is a fast-moving program. The first day for applications was actually 2 Fridays ago, April the 8th, last Friday. And tomorrow, I believe, is the day where independent contractors can apply. And at 4:30 this afternoon, I got a notice from one of the organizations we belong to that the $349 billion that out of the $2 trillion that was passed is all gone. But then I also have another memo that says that there's another $250 billion, a second appropriation that's going through right now. Right now, the Democrats and the Republicans are fighting over some of the terms and conditions, but you can expect that there will be another 250 billion that's going to come through, and it's going to be done on a first come first serve basis. So if your company is qualified to apply for these loans, which almost everybody is, there's very little that's not. Uh, um, Very few companies would not be qualified. So you should get it in quick. One of the conversations we had at the earlier two webinars is, well, where do you go? Because a lot of our customers don't have a real personal relationship with a bank. They use a bank, but they just don't have a relationship. You should try your bank and savings and loans. Anybody that does SBA loans is involved in this. And then later they opened it up to all banks. So if you have a relationship with the banker and you haven't already talked to them about it, you should do that. There's another loan program called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, EDIL, that the SBA is also administering. But there's no loan forgiveness, and you have to approve economic injury. So for the pool industry, and I'm not sure for the StoneHardscapes customers who are not swimming pool contractors, I'm not sure if you've suffered any economic injury yet, at least the ones here in Florida. I don't know about the rest of the country. But if you haven't, then you wouldn't be able to qualify for that. There's no personal guarantee, by the way, on either one of these loan programs. So if you don't have the forms and you'd like to have them, my email address is bkent, B like in Bill, BKENT @teamhorner.com. And my cell phone number is 954-673-2058. And you're welcome to call me or email me, and I'll send you the forms that I have. Another interesting thing that just came up is there's another loan program called Main Street Lending. And again, it's not as good as the PPP loan program. That's the one that has the forgiveness in it. And the whole strategy with the PPP program is to keep you from laying off employees by giving you the money to pay for them. There's an ending date of June 30th on the application, and you have to submit what you were spending in payroll last year, along with those other add-ons. And I just learned about this one called the Main Street Lending Program, and this is for companies over 500 employees, which, like us, we're not qualified for the PPP program, the loans are for $1 million and up. So that's a whole other thing that I just literally learned about around 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon when I was doing some research. If any of you are interested in that program, then just again email me or call me. That's as far as formal stuff. That's what I wanted to let you all know about. I do have a document checklist from a bank that provides what you have to go to a bank with, but I think every bank's a little different. I belong to a ongoing education program for business owners called Vistage. Pam actually belongs to another group in the same organization, and Mike does as well. And I had a Zoom meeting earlier today with my group, and some of them have already been approved for the loans and expect to get money in the next day or two. And one of my members, Frank Freon, he's a geotechnical engineering firm. He said that he knew 2 people who already got the money yesterday. So the money is flowing out for this PPP program. So that's kind of it. That's what I had in mind. Has anybody got any questions or comments?
Bill, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, thank you for the seminar, by the way, and hello to everyone. Bill, I just heard from my partner that a couple of people that we do business with, they have not, everything supposedly already run out the first run of payments, which you mentioned.
Right.
Does that mean that you're no longer going to be getting it, or that you simply have to wait towards this second round that's happening?
Well, from what I'm told and through conversation with a bunch of other people who are involved in this, it's on a first come, first served basis. So if you're a candidate, you should just put your application in no matter what as quickly as you can, because the 250, that 250 billion is also going to go out quickly. So
No, that's why I was curious, because we submitted our information
mhm.
almost immediately after they said it. So it was kind of panicky to hear that, because we were amongst the first, like the day that we could submit the application, we did it then. And our
Well,
bank actually contacted us and everything, but we haven't seen anything.
well, you'll have to find out from your bank exactly what's going on. I've been told that the people who don't really have, again, this is just hearsay, but this is what I was during this conversation earlier today. The people who don't really have a relationship with a bank are not getting in the line as quickly as the ones that, in other words, the banks are going to take care of their good customers first. And I guess that kind of makes sense. Some of the banks seem to have like a registration number from the SBA, and so then they pass that along to their customers. Like, we've got a commercial roofing contractor in my business group. He does about 50 million a year, and he has a little under 300 employees, and he's got a $3 million request in. So for him, because he's very labor intensive, he's 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 kind of floating. To be honest, he's dancing in circles because he believes he's going to get it. But from one of the other things that I heard was that some banks are really after this and going after it quickly. The smaller banks, and then the big banks are very slow and kind of bureaucratic. So I don't know who you do business with, but there's a smaller bank called Co-America, who was mentioned today, and that's one of the ones that is moving fast on it. But again, if you don't know who they are and don't do business with them, it probably wouldn't help you too much. So you just need to find out as quickly as you can from whoever you've got contact-wise. Federal credit unions are also candidates to submit this stuff. So, time is of the essence. I know that.
Yeah. And by the way, the reason that I was concerned was because our bank was very responsive. I'm with Bank of America, and we actually heard back from somebody other than our banker contacting us on everything. So it was surprising to hear of this thing. But okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So Albert, since we know each other for 30 years or more than 30 years, actually, have you applied, or have you got any input on this thing?
We did submit are you hearing me okay?
I'm hearing you perfectly.
Okay, yeah, we submitted with two different lenders. Both of them we thought we had relationships with. We did business with them. Neither one of them has told us yes or no. So we're just sitting back waiting, hoping to get some of the money. It bothered me when I heard that the money was all gone, and then looking at what the feds are doing with the next round of money, whether we'll get it or not, who knows when. But oddly enough, I've talked to two of my friends in the Aquatech group, and both of them have already been funded and already got checks. So I don't know. I think it's a matter of how good a relationship you have or who you know. Both of them told me that it did come down to relationship, just like you spoke of.
Yeah.
The relationships go a long way with something like this. So.
Well, the banks are probably being overrun with applications, so that's what you'd have to do almost, is sort it out and take care of your customers first.
That's what I believe.
Yeah.
I've got my guys are on leave, and I'm just paying them out of pocket right now. I just don't know how long I can do that for. It's just a matter of, without the income coming in. I know we can work. We chose to shelter in place mainly because my just concern for everyone's safety is why I made that decision. So
Well,
I've got a bunch of old guys,
One of my ear pods dropped out. So can you still hear me?
Yeah, we got
Okay. Down here in Fort Lauderdale, the builders, some of them have shut down, as I understand it, but other ones are still working. And you know, one of the other things that's happened here in Broward County is they closed all of the pools in condominiums and this kind of stuff. And I've got a relationship with one of the city councilmen here in Fort Lauderdale, and I've been jawboning with him, and it turns out that Broward County, excuse me, Broward County is actually the decision-making body that made this decision. So we're trying to overturn that and get the pools back open here. There is some local jurisdictional decision-making going on. This is an incredible suspension of civil liberties, in my opinion.
Oh, some of it's just way out of control. Some items are way out of control.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Has anybody else got any comments or questions?
Well, if I may, one of the things, like we opted to keep our staff on board, and we're a smaller firm. We have like 8 employees, but we did cut back on the number of hours per week, you know, as a way to be able to keep everybody there as much as possible. At the time that we made the decision, we didn't know that we were actually going to be getting this funding, because it's been quite a while. So, I mean, obviously it gets harder and harder as the weeks go by, but that's one decision that we made. Now, that being said, us being in the architectural and interior design industry, God knows what's going to happen right afterwards, because some businesses are going to be faring better than others, and architects usually get the axe before anybody else. So one of the questions that I had, and I think it was clarified on another seminar, was if you do need to let go of certain people after the fact, I think you only have to hold them for a period of the 2 months, the same period that you're giving the assistance with. And I'm not sure if that's the case or not. Are you aware of that?
I've read that same exact thing, that you can lay them off, but you got to bring them back as part of this period after you apply for the loan.
And if you do need to, let's say, hopefully things won't be like this, but let's say that you do bring them back once we get this check that we're all waiting for, and you have to keep them there for that amount of time. But let's say the economy keeps tanking, you can let them go after the 2 months that you're getting this relief for, correct?
I believe you're right. Yeah.
That's for sure. Okay.
Yeah. Basically it's a fairly simple loan forgiveness thing, and there's no personal guarantees. And when you think about it, you got to wonder, well, how's the government going to go after someone who doesn't pay the loan back? Who knows?
They'll give that like they did the student loans.
Well, you're right, they could, but you know, that's not what the paperwork says. That's not what so it's kind of an interesting situation. I've never seen anything like this before. So does anybody else have, go ahead.
Bill, you did catch that if you don't document that it was used for those payroll expenses, that there is an actual penalty, an interest fee that you actually end up paying. Did you catch that?
Yeah, but you don't start paying interest until next year. It's interest free through the rest of this year.
I think we can find a way to prove that it's payroll.
You're a pretty clever guy, and I don't think anybody on this call couldn't handle that challenge. You know, it's money's like water. You just pour it into a cup or a bowl or a pool, and trying to find one molecule from another is pretty hard. So does anybody else have any other questions or comments that's online? Because if not, then we'll just go ahead and I'll say thank you for attending, and hopefully you learned something. I'm learning something every day about this. So if you have any questions, call me, 954-673-2058, or my email is bkent@teamhorner, bkent@teamhorner.com. So thank you all very much. Edison, you can take over, and we'll call it a night.
Thank you.
All right, Bill.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank you
it
very much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Bill.